Spring is in the air at the Joy of Editing, and today it's Topaz Studio 2, episode number 66 of my Creative Toolbox series. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Today I have this image. It's an iPhone image that I ended up cropping in pretty tight on it, upscaled it using Topaz Photo AI, brought it into Photoshop, and now I'm going to send it into Topaz Studio 2. I'll be taking an artistic approach and turning it into some flower art. I went ahead and duplicated the background image, called it Topaz Studio 2, because I never like to work on my background image. And then sometimes when the image comes back from Topaz Studio 2, I like to pull back on the opacity a little bit and let some of the original image show through. So we're going to come up here and click on Filter, come down to Topaz Studio 2, click that, we'll launch Topaz Studio 2 and get started. And here we are inside of Topaz Studio 2. Now, I know you can't purchase Topaz Studio 2 anymore, but I love this program, especially for making painterly type images using the impression filter, which I'll be using today. Now, I'm using an iMac with an Intel processor. It works perfectly. I also have a MacBook Air with an M1 chip, and I can use it as a standalone app, or I can use it with Photoshop in the Rosetta mode, so it still works, and I'm pretty sure it still works on Windows machines. If you would like Topaz to keep making this program, or at least update it, please let me know in the comments section below. My hope is that Topaz will maybe watch these videos and say, hey, you know what? People still like Topaz Studio 2. Maybe we are passing up on a great opportunity here. So let me know in the comment section below what you think. I'll be using two filters today, the impression filter and the precision detail filter. We're going to come over to add filter, click on that, and come down and click on impression. I love this filter. With it, you could take a photograph and give it a painterly look, which I absolutely love, and it does a really great job at that. And already it looks like a painting. Now let's go over to the impression filter. Come the whole way down to the bottom. The first thing I want to do is click on texture, and we're going to come down and see where it says background type. I'm going to change it from solid to original. And what that does is it keeps any canvas from showing through in the image. Sometimes I like that, but in this case I don't want to. I'm going to go back to solid. See if you can see the difference here. See how you can see little areas of white shooting through here, which gives it a painterly look, by the way. But in my case, I don't want it so much, so I'm just clicking on original. That is why I do that. See, it fills in those little gaps. And now we're going to come back up to the top of the filter. We're going to start out with a stroke. And you get all kind of different paint strokes in the impression filter. So this is the first stroke. Let's click on the second stroke. And usually what I like to do is just click through these different strokes and see what they're doing to my image. You can see changes every time I click on a different stroke. I'm not going to bore you and go through all these strokes. Maybe some of you would like to see all these strokes. The impression filter gives you a lot to pick from. You even have strokes down here that'll give you more of like a serrat. Is that how you say that? You know, like pointillism gives you those pointy strokes. Man, there's all kind of really cool stuff in here. But you know what? I'm going to use the very first stroke, type 01. Let's keep this really simple. And I love this paint stroke, by the way. Now we can have some fun. Let's make some adjustments. Now we start out with number of strokes, low, medium, and high. Well, what's that all about? Well, let's check it out. Impression defaults at medium, so let me click on low. This would be more abstract. You see that? And of course, medium gives you a little more detail, and then high gives you even more detail yet. For this image, I think I want a more abstract look, so I'll click on low. And now let's work from here. What I like to do is just really start to play around with these sliders, and the names really tell you what they do. Brush size will make the brush size larger or smaller. So I like to just play. What does it look like if I give it a larger brush size? See, it gets a lot more abstract. Go the whole way up, it gets really abstract. So again, you can just play around and get it to look the way you want it to look. And sometimes you don't know the way you want it to look until you play with this slider and see what you want. I think I want a smaller brush size, so I'm going to drag this to the left, to right there, 0.32. Isn't this fun? Now let's go to paint volume. Let's drag this to the right a good bit just to see what it's doing here. Now, it seems to me that it's lightening up the image. I don't know exactly what it does, but I do like the fact that the image is getting lighter, but I think it's too light, so I'm going to pull that back a little bit to right there. How does 0.60 sound to you? And now we come to large brush volume. Let's see what happens when I drag this to the right. Okay, the strokes seem to get a little bolder to me. I'm going to pull back on that a little bit, and let's pull it back to right there, 0.26. And now we come to one of my favorites, and that is paint opacity. I'm going to drag this to the right so you can really see what it's doing here. See how those strokes really get that painterly look. A lot of texture starts to come in here, and I really like this. Obviously, that's probably too much, so let's back that off. I'm going to back it off to like right here, like a 0.73. Here's a little tip. If you want to see a before and after, just left click on the image and hold it down. There's your before. Release your left click. Here's your after. And I really like the way this image is heading. The next adjustment I want to make is stroke rotation. Now, if you drag this slider to the right, you will rotate those strokes. You see how they're rotating? And this could be quite effective. I don't want much here. I'm just going to take this back to right there, a 0.12. And then you have rotation variation. This slider will give you some randomization to the strokes. Some will move one way, some will move another. I'm not going to use that today. And then we have stroke color variation. This one you got to be careful with. I'm not going to use it, but let me show you what it does. If I start to drag this to the right, can you see how we're getting different color variations in here? And if you drag it way to the right, it can get really weird looking. So you got to be careful here. And I find a little bit goes a long way for this one. Like something like 0.5 is kind of nice in this. But I'm just going to go ahead and shut this off. By the way, you can reset any one of these sliders by double-clicking on the name of the slider. And then we can adjust how wide or how long our strokes are. I'm not going to mess with that. I will adjust the spill. Let me show you how this works. Spill's kind of interesting. If I move this to the right, it'll spill out the paint from the strokes. You see that? Gives it a more abstract look, and I like that. I want a little bit of that. And by the way, you can move left of center and reduce spill going that way, you see? So you can add spill or take spill away. But I want to get some spill in here. I'm going to take it to right there, 0.85. I think that looks really nice. And now we come to smudge. I really like this one. I don't use it too often, but it'll like smooth out your image. Watch when I move this smudge slider to the right. See how the image starts to smooth out? And you could get some really nice looking smudge painterly looks like that. You know, sometimes that could be really cool. I don't want that much smudge. I just want a little. I'm going to take mine to right there, 0.33, just to kind of offset the spill that I did. I think it just smooths it out a little bit, and I think it looks good. The next thing I want to do, you see this gray bar right here. I'm going to drag this down because I want to come in here and work on my color. You could click right here and you'll open up a whole HSL, hue, saturation, luminance adjustments for all the different colors plus the overall saturation. I'm not going to do too much in here, but I'm going to click on green. And I don't know if you can see this. When I hover over this green block, can you see the little red lines in there letting you know the areas that will be effective? That's pretty nice. But what I want to do is just add a little bit of green saturation. So we could drag this to the right. I'm going to take it right here, like 0.33. Now we can adjust the hue of it if we want to and the lightness. It's pretty nice. But that's all I want to do with that. And then I want to click on this blue button, and you can see with the red overlay going over the purplish parts of the flower, but that's hitting in the blue, so I'm going to click on blue. I just want to increase that saturation just a little bit there, like a 0.41, and then I think I want to lighten it. The lightness of the blue will take it up a little bit to right there, 0.16. And then you know what? I'm going to click on this button, which is the overall saturation. I want to shift that hue a little bit, so I'm going to take this slider and drag it to the left to like right here, 0.12. And then I just want to reduce the overall saturation just slightly to right here, 0.05. And now I'm going to drag this gray bar down the whole way. And what I want to do is add a little bit of texture. We have a whole bunch of different textures in here that we can use, but what I want to use is this one right here, Canvas 1. So I'll click on it. And now I'm going to go ahead and zoom into the image so you can really see this. And all I'm going to do is take this strength slider and drag it to the right, over to right there, 0.49. And see that nice little texture we're getting in there. Pretty cool. And now I'm done with the impression filter. One filter to go and we'll be done. Let me left click and hold on the canvas. Here's the before and now the after. So I really like the transformation that this image has taken so far. To add another filter, come back to add filter, click, And we're going to use the precision detail filter. And I'm going to use an adjustment I normally don't use. I normally use the overall detail adjustment. This time I'm only using shadows. So I'm going to click on the shadow button. I just want to add some detail to the small shadow areas. So let me go ahead and start to drag this to the right. Now just look at the shadows. See that detail starting to pop out in the shadows? It's really nice. I don't want to go that much, but I think right there, 0.63. And that just pops a little bit of detail out in the shadows. So if I shut this layer off by clicking the eye on precision detail, there's before. And now let me turn it back on, and here's after. But I think that looks nice, just that little bit of shadow detail in the small areas of shadow detail. And now we're done here in Topaz Studio 2, so just come up to the menu and click Accept, and that'll send us back into Photoshop. And now here we are back in Photoshop, so let me shut off the Topaz Studio 2 layer by clicking on this eye. Here's the before, and here's the after. Now, we always have our opacity here. We could drag this to the left a little bit and decrease that opacity and let a little bit of the original image show through if we wanted to. Maybe I'll let a little bit show through. I'll take this to like 85%. So here is the before and here is the after. So I'm really happy with the way this turned out. Well, there it is, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. I went ahead and sent the image back into Topaz Studio 2. Added a matte to it just to give you an idea what it would look like with a matte. Well, if you enjoyed today's tutorial, please give it a like and share it with a friend. And if you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe. Click that bell notification icon. Click all so that you'll receive all notifications. And then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll get notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. And I will see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.